Well, thank you for joining us in this important series of conversations. It was in August of 2012 when the National Development Plan was adopted in Parliament, and in it we were given a blueprint of how to get to desired outcomes and a destination by 2030. Key to that, of course, is education, particularly higher education. And in this series, what we'll be doing is reflecting on how we are doing. And more importantly, what needs to be done between now and 2030 in order to get as close as possible to that destination, if at all possible. And I'm hoping it is. My name is Africa Melane, and what a thrill to be on this journey with you. I've got an esteemed panel of incredible people who are knowledgeable, all PhDs and professorships, and they are all players in the higher education space, and will be unpacking is the word, a number of very important topics over the next while. So thank you very much for joining us. My first guest is the Chief Academic Officer at Stadio, that's Dr. Divya Singh. She's joined by Director for Academic Planning and Quality Promotion at the University of Johannesburg, Dr. Gloria Castrillón. We've got the Academic Head at Boston City Campus, Dr. Rob Stegmann, as well as the Emeritus Professor at Stellenbosch University, Professor Maureen, and a Director at Eduvos, Dr. Riaan Steenberg. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming and being part of this series. Before we get to the hard work, let's get to know all of you a little bit. And Divya, I'll start with you. 27 years since the publication of the Higher Education Act, which I think is a document that we need to read alongside the National Development Plan, as well as a white paper that we'll be referring to a little bit later. In one word, describe where South Africa finds itself at the moment.
Where South Africa finds itself? Unfortunate.
Unfortunate. That is not a pleasant word, but it is a word we will take. Why do you say unfortunate?
If we're looking at South Africa, I think we find ourselves in an extremely unfortunate situation right now, given the aspiration of the Constitution, given in higher education, if we looked at what we hoped to achieve with the white paper that came out, the very unfortunate Higher Education Act that was promulgated after that, and what happened in higher education since then.
And of course, you're going to be coming up with some wonderful ideas of what could be done between now and 2030 to rescue as much of it as possible, right? There's only one correct answer to that. Not to worry. Not to worry. Rob, let me bring you in. In one word, what describes your personal journey in higher education?
Optimistic, actually. I guess I'm trying to be more optimistic than maybe the circumstances dictate. But I guess if nobody's going to be optimistic, then I don't know what hope we actually have in making the kinds of strides that we need to make. So I'm holding on for dear life, maybe, because I think it has the potential to turn around. So maybe in some ways also crossroads, but not an easy task, and certainly an uphill battle for sure.
Not at all. Gloria, we've got some, 5 years and a few months, I suppose, before we hit 2030, which is the time frame of the National Development Plan. On a scale of 1 to 10, how is higher education doing?
I would say 4. I would give it a fail mark, not because of anything to do with higher education itself, but I think because of the unreality of the expectations placed on the higher education system to actually transform things like the economy, which, when you look at load shedding and water shortages and so on, are not really within the hands of the higher education sector to amend. And critically also, I think that there's a really onerous burden on higher education if you consider the ways and the kinds of flaws in basic education, where children are in classes of 100, 120, and so on. So I too don't want to sound negative, but I think realistically, in 6 years we are not going to achieve much.
Riaan, the same scale, 1 to 10. Gloria has given it a 4. What score would you give it?
I'm going to be slightly controversial and say 7.
Oh, why? I mean, not to take anything away from Gloria,
I'll
but
go with
why do you give it a 7?
I think numerically we've done and we're on the road to achieving what we set out to do. The issue is we didn't plan for that, and I think that's what you're alluding to. So I would put a lot of energy into saying the Department of Trade and Industry doesn't understand trade or industry, the Department of Labour doesn't understand labour, but I think the higher education system is producing good graduates. The numbers, I think where we're failing a little bit is on the research and PhD side. I think we won't reach our numbers there, but I mean the big dream was to take 1.6 million people and get them through education annually.
Yeah.
And I think we'll be there if we look at the numbers. The problem is nobody thought about it was kind of liberation ideology. Everybody needs to have the ability to study, and we didn't think what they'll be doing when they walk out the other side. We just thought they'll go work at places that don't exist today.
So you believe then that higher education is producing what higher education is expected to produce in terms of quality graduates. It's now matters beyond higher education that determine whether the economy is able to make use of those graduates.
Yeah, and well, that's a double-edged sword, because you have to then ask, is education being relevant? But we're doing the numbers.
We're doing the numbers. Maureen, how would you describe the evolution of policy in this space?
A bumpy road. I was thinking of a road where you do travel, and it does have a destination, and you have a kind of a general idea where you're going, with a fair number of speed bumps along the way that you weren't anticipating. So I think I would describe it as moving forward, but not fast, and with a lot of bumps, let me put it like that, along the way. Some of which you kind of can anticipate because you have a little bit of a road map with you, but many that you didn't expect. So bumpy is the one word that you're looking for.
Are the bumps, are we able to smooth out those bumps? If we make the right decisions, are we able to smooth out those bumps?
The bumps are very complex. I mean, like he says, and like Gloria also says, a lot of the bumps are not to do with the internal workings of higher education itself. I mean, it has to do with the economy, it has to do with people's families, it has to do with money, it has to do with the environment, all kinds of things. So, yes, one can try and smooth out those bumps, one can be aware of those bumps, but I think it's more about anticipation. And I always like to, I think a lot in metaphors, and I always think about a juggling type of situation. You're juggling many balls in higher education, you're trying your best, but you can't necessarily manage all of them at the same time. Well, actually, that means you're not a very good juggler. Sorry. That metaphor didn't work.
Maybe it did.
Or maybe it did indeed.